I would like the chance to speak to Mr. Trump face to face to explain to him why this isn't just a bad idea, it's an evil and hurtful idea. But there is a big difference between engaging with a deputy, and of course we've got to engage with America, and indulging him, and rolling out the red carpet, giving him the same treatment we gave to people like Nelson Mandela, to bringing him to Westminster Hall where the Queen Mother lay in state, would basically be a way of saying, what you did, we're fine with it. And I don't think the British public are fine with it. And I think they're pretty horrified by the idea that the Prime Minister herself knew about this, was face to face with the man, had the opportunity to say, are you sure this is a good idea? Look at the damage it's going to do, and didn't say anything at all.
Yeah, Oliver Letwin, let's get you started on the question. Does it matter if Theresa May knew and didn't think to kind of lobby against it, or to mention when she came out, or to have a prepared statement even on the Saturday? She seemed taken aback when she was asked about it on the Saturday evening.
No, I don't think it matters very much at all. It's very... Just imagine the other way around, Evan. Suppose that this was actually a question of the UK's immigration policy, about which Stella and I might agree or disagree, and it'd be very legitimate to have a debate in the UK. Suppose we ask the question, do we think that Mr. Trump or the American public or American politicians should be deciding our immigration policy? The answer was, we think it would be an outrage for them to do so. And it's just the same this way around. This is an ally. It's an ally that has a new president. Might not have been a president I would have particularly voted for if I'd been voting as an American, but I wasn't, and I'm not American. I don't get to decide his policies. We have our policies, they're not the same.
Oliver.
We have to have a relationship with the United States, just as we have a relationship with President Xi when he comes here, despite the fact there are things done in China that are much more questionable than this.
He's banning refugees. There are just some things in life that are so wrong, you have to say, this is wrong. It doesn't take much thought, it's just about the values that you stand for. And I'm sorry, if she even knew about that element of the policy, let alone the idea of the 7 countries involved and that it was focusing on Muslims, she should have said, Mr. President, this isn't the right thing to do. If she was going to stand up for global leadership, you don't pull your punches on something as basic and principled as that.
So are you, like me, an opponent of the death penalty?
Yes, I am.
I expected so. Do you think that a very large number of people in China are put to death each year? Yes.
Do
you think we therefore shouldn't have President Xi here, and
Oliver,
we shouldn't...
She was in the room with him. She was in the room with him.
Yes,
she had the opportunity to stop this.
Yes, absolutely. It's putting him on a platform with Nelson Mandela, also putting him on a platform with Xi Jinping.
Absolutely. And one of the things a lot of us have called for is an ethical foreign policy. And the reason we have these special relationships is not just to hold their hands, but also not to hold our tongues either, is it?
No,
and what she's done so far is not speak up for the very values of tolerance that we're so proud about in Britain. And that's why there are thousands of people on the streets tonight.
I utterly disagree with you. I think
you don't think it's about tolerance?
I think the reason that we have the relationships we have is to try to manage the world in a peaceful and stable way in the interests of our people and also in the interests of the people of the world. And you don't get that by lecturing and hectoring other countries on what their policies should be.
Do you actually think that banning Muslims from America is going to make the world more safe? The only people promoting this policy are ISIS themselves. So it's going to affect all of our security.
We just heard a Muslim who is an ambassador explaining that he hoped that at the end of this temporary ban
with the fact that ISIS is supporting this?
There would be a better policy. Now, I don't know whether there will or not.
Better policy? What is a better ban?
I don't know, Stella, but it's not my business and it's not your business
either.
It
is our business.
Oliver Letwin, let me ask you this, because this is very interesting, because is there, obviously, if it's just some small domestic matter in United States policy, we probably wouldn't want to interfere. Do you think there's anything which America can do in its role as biggest country in the free world that would not cross a line of illegitimacy as opposed to just simply a policy that we don't agree with?
Of course, if there are things which any country does that adversely affect our interests...
Is that it, though? Is that it? If they do something wrong, immoral, that we disagree with, that crosses a certain line?
I don't think we should, in general, try to tell the Russians, of whom I disapprove in many respects, or the Chinese, or the Americans, or anybody else...
We've had a view on Russia invading Crimea. That's nothing to do with us.
Invading Crimea is a different thing, because that puts the stability of Eastern Europe at risk, and that puts the stability of Western Europe at risk, and that was against our interests. And if Mr. Trump invaded the Crimea, I would take the same view. But that's a different kind of thing. I don't think we should lecture people about their domestic policy.
What about the Muslims of British society right now fearful for the kind of world that this division is creating, fearful for the rise in Islamophobia. Does that meet your interest test, Oliver?
Well,
frankly, I want to know how much worse it's got to get for Mr. Trump. This is only his second week in office before this government recognises the merit. We need a trade deal, but we don't need to trade our values to get there.
Well,
we can stand up and say, this isn't okay.
I suppose that, in a way, is some of the concern that people have, isn't it? Is that because we've left the EU, the Brexit foreign policy is basically Erdogan, Trump, and people who, most British people probably feel less allegiance to than perhaps to some of the Europeans we've just exited.
I don't think it is that way. I mean, my view is that over the past 30 or 40 years, definitely under the Blair administrations, we took much too much of a sort of imperialist view that we could manage other people's countries for them. It didn't work out well. We're not good at doing it. We should try to have sensible relationships with great powers and small powers, trading relationships, and accept that we don't any longer run the world. Now, that doesn't mean we should adopt policies we don't believe in. As a matter of fact, I think Stella and I probably agree about what our policy should be in this case. That's fine. We should stick with it. But we don't have to lecture others.
But we very much disagree on whether it has an impact either on our communities, because it spreads division and hate, or whether it has an impact on our world. It's because this is going to impact our world. Future generations aren't going to ask, did you get a great trade deal? They're going to ask, what did you do to stop the hate?
I have to say, I think that the fuss that's being made is more likely to stir up the problems that you're describing in the UK than actually taking a sensible view.
We'll leave it there. Oliver Letwin, Stella Creasy, thanks both very much.